I'm Reverend Steve Joel Moffett Sr., and I'll be your host today on our series on Oneness Pentecostal Theology. Hello, friends. Welcome to the broadcast, and today we're doing a series on Oneness Pentecostal Theology. And last week we talked about my book, One Lord, One Faith, One Baptism, Defending the Gospel Against Polytheism. This week we'll be talking about another one of my books, A True Foundation, Defending the Gospel Against Cults. A True Foundation, Defending the Gospel Against Cults. First, we'll start out by talking about the definition of cult. The definition of a cult, according to dictionary.com, the definition of a cult, according to dictionary.com, is a quasi-religious organization using devious psychological techniques to gain and control adherents, members. Number two, a cult is a religious group held together by a dominant, often charismatic individual. A cult is, number three, a group having an exclusive ideology and ritual practice centered on sacred symbols. Number four, a cult is a particular system. Number four, a cult is a particular system of religious worship, especially with relating to rites and ceremonies. A cult is a particular system of religious worship, especially relating to its rites and ceremonies. Number five, a cult is the worship of a divinity, an idol, or an object, especially a group that lacks organizational structure. Number six, a cult is an instance of veneration of a person, ideal, or thing, especially as manifested by a body of admirers, such as the physical fitness cult. The object of such devotion is also called a cult. In sociology, a cult is a group having a sacred ideology and a set of rites centered around their sacred symbols. Number nine, a group or sect bound together by veneration of the same object, person, or ideal. Those were the definitions of cults. Today, we're talking from my book, A True Foundation, Defending the Gospel Against Cults. Signs of dangerous cults. What are the signs of a dangerous cult? It says, a sign of a dangerous cult is the total control of the agenda of a group by the leader. The total control of agenda by the leader. Life and death is in the hands of the leader. Members will break the law for the leader. Total control over the lives of members. Isolation from contact with non-group members. Forbidden or discouraged family contact. The group often adopts a negative view of the outside world. Sometimes there's isolation into communal living. They live in communes. Mandatory giving or contributions. Surrender of personal goals to the group's goals. Criticism is often not allowed in cults, or criticism is punished in cults. Group size is usually small but can be very large. Less common signs of dangerous cults are fear and intimidation of members, sexual exploitation of members, domination and control themes, shaming and ridicule of members, corporal punishment of members, child abuse of members' children, and the control of the sexual life of members. These are less common signs of a dangerous cult. In cults, many times, it's very common for cult members to be isolated from contact from the outside world, or even isolated from family members, forbidden to talk to their mother, forbidden to talk to their brother, their sister, people they've known all their lives. All of a sudden, they're forbidden contact. Let's go in order. Let's talk about the first tenet of a dangerous cult: total control by the leader. Usually it's the founder of the group and is considered a great prophet or a great man or woman of God, and this individual has total control of the group and the group's agenda. False shepherds convince their followers that their own will is more important than the followers' will, and their own agenda is more important than the followers' agenda. The leader is usually adored and respected by the group and is lifted to some high esteem, and the ideas of the group leader become more important to the group than the Bible. Any healthy church must follow the Bible as a roadmap and the Bible as the rule, not man, the Bible. In some cults, life and death can be in the hands of the leader. And these are the most dangerous kind of cults, where the leader can give a command to have people within the cult assassinated. Most of the time, though, in less dangerous cults, they just try to assassinate the character of someone that's not following their wishes, will, and whims. Sometimes members will even break the law for the cult leader at the behest of the cult leader or his captains and lieutenants. His or her captains or lieutenants. We know that cult leaders can sometimes be women. A cult leader usually exerts virtually total control over the group and over the members of the group. They dominate the group. There's no democratic process. The cult leader is an autocrat or a dictator. Usually they have very strong personalities. or they can be very manipulative. They manipulate people. Many times they isolate group members from non-group members. They forbid group members to talk to family, friends, acquaintances, and usually they allow them only to date within the group. And the group adopts a negative view of the outside world. The group leader convinces those in the group that the outside world is dangerous, that it's perilous, that everybody outside the group is an enemy, and there is no goodness that exists outside of the cult group. Sometimes there's isolation into communal living where the members are required to live only with other members or live in a large group or commune or boarding house or something of that nature, or there are many members of the group living with one another in one house or one apartment or many apartments with many members of the group living in the same complex. Sometimes there's even mandatory giving required of the cult or the cult leader, where there are demands. Sometimes people turn over their homes, they turn over their cars, their bank accounts, their wealth. They give the group control over all their finances, and they keep no control over their own assets. Also, many people surrender their personal goals to the group's goals. Also, within the group, many times criticism is not allowed or is punished. Cults many times are not tolerant of criticism, and cult leaders' ego is usually very fragile, and they don't want their ideas challenged by members of the group or people from the outside. Cults are usually small, but as you can see, they could be very, very large also. And some people will say, well, what is the reason cults exist? And why do people set themselves up in cults? And why do they want to control people's mind? And why do they want to control people's finances and control their ideas? It's easy. St. John 10:10 says, the thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. Jesus said, the thief cometh not but to steal. Cult leaders are there to steal resources that belong to the true work of the ministry, resources that belong to the people of God, or subverted to the personal use of the cult leader. To kill. Many times cult leaders kill the people or kill their influence. There's been many instances of cult leaders, such as the Reverend Jim Jones and the Guyana tragedy many people remember. He killed many hundreds of people, followers. Those that he couldn't kill physically, he assassinated their character. The reason that the true leaders of Christ's church follow these very simple precepts, and this differentiates them from cult leaders. It doesn't mean that every time a leader gives a command, a Christian leader gives a command, that they're a cult leader. or if they give direction, it doesn't mean they're necessarily a cult leader. It doesn't mean because they give an order or directive they're a cult leader. However, what differentiates a true pastor from a false shepherd is ideology. 1 Peter 5:2 says, "Feed the flock of God, which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind." This differentiation is that the true Christian pastor feeds the flock with knowledge and wisdom. The true Christian pastor takes the oversight, but he doesn't, he's not a dictator. He doesn't do it by constraint or by force, but he does it willingly. Says, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, which is ill-gotten gain. The true pastor is not there just to steal the resources from the church or to get a fat salary or to have his Mercedes-Benz paid off. But the true pastor is there because he has a ready and willing mind to help lead the flock to heaven. In chapter 2 in the book, I talk about, chapter 2 is about the symbolism of false prophets. Chapter 2 in my book, A True Foundation, Defending the Gospel Against Cults, is the topic of chapter 2 is why cults are dangerous. Now, 1 Timothy 4:1 says, "Now the Spirit," that's the Spirit of God, "speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils." Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. My friend, this is the personification of a cult, leading the people into fallacies and departing from the true faith and the true doctrine and the true words of the Bible, and listening to seducing spirits and doctrines, teachings of devils. Bible symbolism of false prophets. Chapter 3 is about Bible symbolism of false prophets. What are the symbols in the Bible of a false prophet? And it's found in Isaiah 30:1. And it reads like this: "Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses, and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord." The Bible uses these symbols of horses and their chariots to speak about God's prophecy against false teachers and false doctrines. Many times Christian scholars focus on the literal meaning of scriptures or concentrate on the prophetic or the historic meaning of scriptures, and they don't focus on the symbolic meaning of scriptures. But a chariot, a horse, a false prophet is represented in Scripture as a horse, and the chariot that the horse pulls is the doctrine, and that's in which the people ride in that chariot. So horses give power to the chariot, and the people ride in the chariot. The false prophet is the horse, the chariot is the false prophet's doctrine, and the people ride in the chariot of false hope and false teaching. So that is the Bible symbolism of false prophets. This scripture, Isaiah 30:1, speaks to the fact that after God delivered the children of Israel out of Egypt, there was many that wanted to go back to Pharaoh. Every time they got in trouble, they wanted to run back to Egypt. And the scripture said, woe to them that go down to Egypt for help. Why would you go for help to your enemy? Pharaoh was an enemy of God's people, but every time they got in trouble, they wanted to run back to Egypt. They wanted to complain and say, oh, didn't we have plenty of food? And the food was spicy, and the leeks and the melons and all the things we enjoyed in Egypt. And stay on horses. They wanted to go and buy horses for battle because Egypt was renowned from having fantastically bred horses. Some of the fastest and strongest horses in the world were bred by Egypt. And the people of Israel, God's chosen people, instead of looking to God for help, many times look to Egypt. They look to the false god Pharaoh for help instead of looking to the Holy One of Israel.